Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire. The 49ers are continuing to interview assistant coaches for job openings currently on the team. The 49ers announced yesterday that they interviewed Denver Broncos special teams assistant Chris Banjo for their special teams coordinator job. So obviously, this is the second known candidate that the 49ers have interviewed for this position. Chris Banjo, 10-year NFL veteran, primarily played with the Arizona Cardinals, the Saints, and the Green Bay Packers. He was a safety when he played in the league, but he was best known for his contributions on special teams. This is a very knowledgeable candidate for this job. With the Denver Broncos, they ranked top 10 in yards per punt and kickoff return. They also ranked top 10 in yards allowed per punt and kickoff return. And Chris Banjo also played a pretty key role in Marvin Mims Jr.'s ascension to being an all-pro punt returner. So, obviously, it's not a coincidence that both candidates the 49ers interviewed had a hand in grooming the two top punt returners in the league, Lions, Khalif Raymond, and obviously Marvin Mims Jr. So it seems like the 49ers are looking at this and saying, you know what, we like that, both of these coaches have ascended their punt returners to good status, I guess you could say, all-pro status for Marvin Mims Jr. I don't believe Khalif Raymond was, but either way, I mean, those two guys are the top two punt returners in the entire NFL. So, obviously, the 49ers are probably looking at and saying, we want Jacob Cowing to kind of take a step forward and ascend to, Khalif Raymond and Marvin Mims Jr.'s, level. And, we want to create a more dangerous punt return unit. So, the 49ers, obviously, when you look at the special teams coordinator position, this position clearly needs to be assessed carefully. They need to interview these, coaches that they're interviewing carefully, which I'm sure they're doing. But they need to, just choose the best one that they believe fits for the team, that they believe the players will like, that's very knowledgeable. I think Jet Motkins and Chris Banjo are two great candidates for this position. I didn't know too much about these guys. I've heard of Jet Motkins and him being Curtis Motkins' son, but I haven't really heard too much about these candidates. However, the 49ers are clearly looking at the NFL and going, okay, who had the best, special teams unit in the league last year, who did well with punt returns, who did well with just coaching a good special teams unit into the top 10, into the top 10, special teams unit of the entire NFL. And when you look at the Lions and when you look at the Broncos, both of those teams were top 10 special teams units. So it's clear what the 49ers are trying to look for here. And again, with Chris Banjo, with him taking Marvin Mims Jr. to an all-pro level in terms of punt returning, that's clearly very that is very attractive to the 49ers because obviously Jacob Cowing, this is a guy that has ridiculous speed. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's got incredible vision. And I think the 49ers look at him and think, this guy has a chance to become a top-tier special teams punt returner. And we just need to get a guy in here that can coach him up and can coach this special teams unit, back to where it once was just a few years ago. So, yeah, man, we'll see what happens. Chris Banjo, though, again, interviewed for the special teams coordinator opening for the 49ers. In other news, the 49ers interviewed Noah Pauley, an Iowa State offensive assistant for their offensive coordinator job. Now, this comes after Kyle Shanahan publicly came out and said that the team inevitably will be promoting Clay Kubiak to the offensive coordinator role. However, there is an NFL process that is a rule, and that is called the Rooney Rule. And they are taking a look at some outside options because obviously, it is against the rule. You can't just kind of promote somebody like that. You got to go through an extensive interview process. I get why the Rooney Rule is a thing. Don't get me wrong. However, sometimes I go back and forth on that rule. Like I get, there isn't, I get that some may believe that there isn't a fair hiring process that goes into some of these jobs in the NFL. So I get why the NFL made that a rule. However, sometimes I think, man, like the Rooney Rule, Kyle Shanahan's going to promote who he wants to promote, as well as other coaches in the league. And it's not, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to go through an extensive interview. It is what it is. It is a rule. I'm not going to dive too much into that. But either way, they interviewed Noah Pauley of Iowa State for the offensive coordinator job. So he most recently coached wide receivers and served as a passing game coordinator at Iowa State. He also coached briefly with the Packers through the NFL's Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship. And Kyle Shanahan did reveal the other day that Kubiak, who most recently served as the team's offensive passing game specialist, would earn a promotion to the full-time coordinator role this offseason. But again, the NFL steps in and they inform the 49ers that they had to comply with the open search process before naming somebody in the role. And again, this also meant that the 49ers had to include at least 2 minority candidates in the accordance with the NFL's Rooney Rule. This probably is an interview that took place. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan probably thinks pretty highly of Noah Pauley. However, Kyle Shanahan has his mind made up. He knows who his offensive coordinator is going to be. He's already said who his offensive coordinator is going to be, and that's Clay Kubiak. So again, I definitely like how Kyle is interviewing other candidates. I don't think he should just necessarily promote within like that. I definitely think it's smarter on the coach's standpoint to have an extensive interview process with multiple candidates. However, Clay Kubiak is an ascending coach in this league. He's a brilliant offensive mind. His brother, Clint Kubiak, formerly of the 49ers, took the Saints offensive coordinator job just last year. Nothing like good football coaching runs in the Kubiak family. It started with Gary Kubiak winning Super Bowl 50 with the Denver Broncos, and then obviously Clint Kubiak being one of the more ascending, brighter offensive minds in football. He's working his way up. Again, he's currently the Saints offensive coordinator. And now you have Clay Kubiak, who most recently served as the 49ers passing game coordinator and an offensive assistant, but now expected to take on the 49ers official offensive coordinator job. So, 2 candidates, though, for the 49ers that they interviewed yesterday. I would absolutely expect more candidates to be interviewed for special teams coordinator and offensive coordinator just because of the NFL's Rooney Rule. However, I don't think any of these interviews will take away from the fact that Clay Kubiak will be the 49ers' next offensive coordinator. However, I'm not sure who the 49ers I'm not sure who's at the top of their list in terms of special teams coordinator. It's got to be Jet Motkins or Chris Banjo. Those are the only 2 candidates that they have interviewed for this position. So, got to think that it's one of those guys. We'll see what happens, though. I'll continue to keep you guys updated. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the 49ers interviewing Chris Banjo for their special teams coordinator position. And again, Iowa State position coach / passing game coordinator Noah Pauley for the offensive coordinator. So let me know your guys' thoughts on this in the comments down below. Again, I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated on these coaching interviews and just other 49ers news. So stay tuned. As always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one.